Welcome back to Sports on Tap. I'm Rob Trump. We have Josh Effie, Ed Dick here. Sean Duffy out on assignment. We're live from Z's Cream and Bean in Hinckley, Ohio. 2706 Boston Road. And beautiful night here as it borders all kinds of different cities, Ed.
It borders 4 cities. Borders Hinckley, Strongsville, North Wilton, and Brunswick.
So, yeah, if you're in that area, come on up to 2706 Boston Road. And it's been packed here. A lot of people coming in for great ice cream. It's been a great summer, really. A lot of sun out. It's been warm. And why not after, your baseball game? You have softball. We have people, karate.
Well, heck, according to
Karate's here.
Coach Hinnick, who we just had on, football's starting up with training camp. So awesome interview we had, as usual, with Coach Hinnick. Going into his second year at Berea Mid-Park. Thank you to those who tuned in for that one. It'll be on our website, our brand new website, www.sportsontappodcast.com. Make sure you check that out along with our Facebook page and Twitter. We'll be posting that up. But, thanks for listening. Thanks again for John for coming in and talking. Always good to talk to him. Very knowledgeable football mind. One of the bright young head coaches. I believe in our area. Maybe I'm being a little biased because he's been on the show so many times, but really, truly.
He's definitely a friend of show status.
Yeah,
for sure.
He's been around the block, like we mentioned earlier. He's been around some really good programs. So I have no doubt he's going to build that Berea Mid-Park program up to be definitely a playoff contender here in a relatively short amount of time.
Yeah, and things like that take time. I mean, he's a new head coach. He's basically starting over with a new team, and the team's going to take time to learn both sides of the ball.
Well, and a thing I don't think people realize, and I really didn't realize until I actually started covering high school football and then talking to the coaches, it's a lot more than just practicing during the fall and then playing games on Fridays. It's about building relationships within school students, administration, relationships within the community, building a youth program. I mean, it is definitely a full-time job on top of your other full-time job, whether being a teacher or whatever. So, there's a lot to go into. So in order to have a successful program and a consistently successful program, that really shows you what kind of person, what kind of a leader is leading that. And hopefully for John's sake, that'll be the case for him, which I have no doubt it will be.
When you're a head coach, a lot of it's, and I've talked to previous head coaches about this, and they've said, being a head coach is about, I might be being generous here. I think he might have said 20%, it might be 10%. 20% actual coaching, 80% everything else.
Yeah.
PR, teaching, CEO.
You are the CEO of the program, whether it's deciding if there's going to be a stripe on a uniform, whoever your medical staff's going to be, what buses you're going to take on this day, who you're going to schedule for a game. Fundraising, like none of that stuff happens just by the snap of a finger.
Right.
Someone has to drive all that, and Coach Hunick's been around a lot of great coaches in his career, and he's been able to pick the brains of not only the coaches he's been with, but also other coaches as well. Mm-hmm. To really figure out how to get an up and coming program like Berea Mid-Park up and running. They had a great start with Coach Ray Raddick. He's a familiar guy in the Mid-Park area. He's a legend in Berea. But I have no doubt that Coach Hunick will be able to put his own stamp on that program, especially that combined program, and be able to take that program to another level.
Yeah, like we said, it takes time, but I think he's built that foundation, and it's going to be a fun and interesting year this year in the Southwestern Conference.
Speaking of taking time, when we talk about the Cleveland Cavaliers and their GM search, as we seen earlier on this week, Chauncey Billups, how'd you like that segue, by the way?
Nice.
Wow.
Chauncey Billups did turn down the Cavs' offer to be the president of basketball operations. Stories coming out that he got lowballed now. Average salary for the position is $4 million. He got offered $1.5 to $2 million a year. So that's not good. Cavs and former GM David Griffin parting ways was the first wave of action that took a negative spin for Dan Gilbert. And then the fact that the Cavs really had not made any significant moves when it comes to the Cavs making moves, there's not a lot they can do. Let's be honest. They are the defending Eastern Conference champions, so they already have a good team.
Yep.
They added to the services of Jose Calderon. They signed Kyle Korver to an extension. Some reports and rumors circulating that Jamal Crawford could be of interest to the Cavs. Also, Udonis Haslem.
No. No.
Richard Jefferson saying he's going to come back for another year, not retiring. So the Cavs are definitely old. And this does have a similar feeling of maybe this is their last ride before changes will be made next year, whether that's LeBron leaving or not. That's has to be wait and see. And I don't know if that's going to happen. We'll talk about that probably in the future. But, guys, what are your thoughts about the Cavs off-season or lack of an off-season thus far?
It was going to be tough for the Cavs to really make a major splash without having, a competent GM in tow, which they no longer have, because their assets are very limited. They were once in a position where they were kind of doing what Boston was doing. They were just stockpiling draft picks, and they had a lot to offer. Once LeBron came back, that entire thing changed, which obviously none of us would trade. Well, none of us would trade what's happened. We broke the curse. They brought a championship to Cleveland, and that's what we needed to have happen. Now, as far as long-term sustainable success, though, they're in a very, very precarious position. You may have overpaid for some players that maybe don't. And as the salary cap escalates, and some of these deals that are being signed are just completely asinine. The Cavs may have been a little bit ahead of their time by some of the contracts they offered, but that doesn't negate the fact that they've really strapped themselves as far as what they can do from a free agency standpoint. The assets they really only have one or two tradable assets. One that they're actually willing to part with, and that's all the talk that we've been hearing about Paul George and possibly going to New York Knicks for Carmelo Anthony, which
Kevin Love.
Kevin Love, correct. Yeah, Kevin Love is the bait that they're hanging out there. You can say that Indiana kind of crapped the bed when they decided to take far less than market value for Paul George. Actually, you could probably take it another step further and say Minnesota did the same thing, or Chicago did the same thing when they traded Jimmy Butler. They didn't get nearly as much in return as what they could have gotten back, especially for a player who's got 2 years left on his deal, as opposed to Paul George who only has one, is essentially going to be a rental. Now, had that trade gone through, Love for George, would anyone have been mad? Probably not.
No.
Because we know what the team is with Kevin Love on it, and it's good enough to beat 28 other teams in the league. It's not good enough to beat 29. Unfortunately, we saw that in the finals last year, and it really was no detriment to Love. I thought he had a decent series.
He played. He played very well.
He actually played a lot better.
Yeah, I think I like the deal, the possible three-way deal with Paul George, for the fact that Paul George is a great two-way player.
And that's what you need against a team like Golden State. Now,
go ahead.
Really, just to finish my thought, I kind of went off a tangent there, but
as
far as they just didn't have a whole lot to work with in the offseason. They have a lot of massive contracts on the deal, which they all decided to re-sign after they either won the title or just as they lost the title. So a lot of those deals look like bargains now, but right now they're strapping us. We don't have any draft picks to trade until like 2050. And the stepping rule, which was correctly put in place to stop us from doing that, it limits us as to what we can do. So we just need to hope that a guy like Jose Calderon is coming on a minimum deal. David West re-signed with the Warriors on a minimum deal. Like, those are the type of guys that need to come out of the woodwork, or once the buyout season really starts happening. Kind of like how what happened this year when we were able to get Darren Williams with a buyout, and that's really the best way for them to go about doing their business right now. I mean, the team's not getting any younger, and some of these contracts will start coming off in a couple of years. But to your point, is LeBron still going to be here to see that through when we're actually able to spend a little bit of money?
Well, and if Golden State would have won this year, I think everyone would be happy to bring back the same team we had. I mean,
of course.
Kevin Love had actually, I think, his best year as a Cavalier last year.
He was an all-star.
Yeah, and in the playoffs, especially versus Golden State, I mean, he played well. I mean, other than, you could say, in Game 6 or Game 5, he had early foul trouble that took him out of the game, so he could never get in a rhythm. But the other games, I mean, he was putting up points, giving you rebounds. He defensively was better. So it's not a bad thing that we still have him. Yes, obviously everybody wants Paul George, but also you get a new player and you get some new players. All of a sudden, you have to figure out a way to get these guys, almost into a rhythm with the offense, with the defense. And, you have to start from square one where maybe it takes longer than, a few months for the Cavs to basically get adjusted to that new player. So, it's not necessarily bad that these players are all coming back. They are older, but maybe they'll fine-tune some things, and Ty Lue maybe will learn a little bit about Golden State, and you bring in some pieces here, like you said, on minimum deals because they can't do very much. And, I was laughing with a lot of the media who said, LeBron James is leaving because he's not recruiting players this year. Who is he going to recruit to come here?
Right.
I mean,
yeah,
I don't understand. What do you want him to do? Do you want him to recruit Jose Calderon to come here? I mean, there's just not a lot you can do, especially with what the Cavs have right now to go out and get, Carmelo Anthony. It's a little tougher than just going out and saying, Carmelo, you should come to the Cavs. He wants to probably come here. It's a little tougher than that, and Jamal Crawford now. He talked to LeBron James. All of a sudden now he's interested really in coming here. So now wait, ESPN better take that back. Maybe LeBron now is back to recruiting. Hold on a sec. You know what I mean?
LeBron did talk to Paul George also, according to reports, to gauge interest and all that good stuff. And they got to the point where they even said that Paul George would be open to committing long-term
to the Cavs.
To the Cavs.
Yeah, and, how true is it with and it could be very true about Dan Gilbert and Chauncey Billups, but do we know for sure that, he offered him $1.5 to $2 million? I mean, it doesn't seem like something Dan would do, but then again, with David Griffin and how that went down, you could very well say that. But, a lot of these reports, where do they get them from? What is their source? I think it's funny when they start, bringing up all kinds of different, trades and, LeBron, I think I heard one where, he has business in Los Angeles, so he'd rather live there full time. That might be the dumbest thing I've ever heard in my life. Okay, you want to live in L.A. for movies and your business. I mean, you could do it from Canton if you really want to. I mean, in Ohio. You know what I mean? Some of the rumors are insane to me and getting a little outrageous.
Well, here's what I think needs to really happen for the Cavs is they just need to take stock of what happened last year and decide that that's not going to happen again because we talked about it at length in some of our previous episodes and some of our previous shows that they clearly weren't taking the regular season seriously at all.
Yeah.
And they thought they could flip the switch, and they did for the Eastern Conference, but that can only take you so far. You can't just build a defensive presence in the course of a month against inferior competition and expect to be ready for an elite talent.
Yeah.
You have the players that you have, and unless you're going to start training people left and right, they're going to be back again next year. To your point, Josh, Coach Lue really just needs to get his foot up their collective butts and say, guys, this is who we have. We saw that last year. Taking it easy didn't work. Players are going to get some rest. I get that. But when you go and play the Philadelphia 76ers, you can't take that night off. When you're going to play the Sacramento Kings, you can't take the night off. Like, you can't be taking these 30 to 40-point losses that the Cavs have taken this year.
Yeah, and
because they could just assume they can flip the switch. They were proved wrong last year that they can do that. And, it took a Herculean effort from Kevin Durant to do it, but he's not going anywhere.
Right.
So you need to collectively come up with a Herculean effort as a team to overcome that. And you can't do that just by train wreck in the Eastern Conference.
Yeah, and that was sort of my point during our conversations.
And I've changed my stance on that, by the way. So I mean, since I've probably last talked about it, I didn't really think the regular season mattered that much either. But
it does because you establish healthy habits that I think can help you in a tough playoff series like against the Warriors. And this whole aspect of Ty Lue maybe shoving something up somewhere for the Cavs to get going. How they got humiliated in the finals should be all you need. I mean, this is where I want, the Cavs. All right, let's just say, for instance, this is LeBron's last year in Cleveland. Maybe this is the last year that this team is together. Wouldn't you have a sense of pride for yourself as a player? I know I would. I would want to go out there and really play hard and show everyone who is doubting this team that we are just as good as the Warriors. And like you said, Ed, when you're playing a team like the 76ers, there is no reason. They might be actually pretty decent. They might be a playoff team with all the talent going to the West. But if you're playing a team that's really lousy, like the New York Knicks, for example, there's no reason why you should lose to them. You should dominate them. And you know what? You get to them, you have them up by 30 within the third quarter, then you get your rest. And then hopefully you don't blow the lead like the Cavs did so many times.
Yeah, you earn the rest by playing the game, not by taking the whole game off against an inferior opponent. I mean, I get that LeBron's going to be watching his minutes a little bit because apparently he's the only one who's ever played 80,000 minutes in the regular season, like the media likes to point out. But, the Cavs, they need to figure out a way to play without LeBron James. It's just as simple as that. What do they run a completely different offense or something? I mean, LeBron is the ultimate eraser, but when he's not playing, he can't erase anything. Mm-hmm. So it's been a struggle since he's been back is learning how to play without him. And especially when you have two other all-stars on your team who are more than capable of scoring and carrying the load, and that's just not happening. And the other ancillary players aren't pulling their weight, for lack of a better term, because it's kind of like what we talked about with Coach Hunick. Defensively, he doesn't have like a Joey Bocci this year that can kind of clean up a lot of things, and because of that, each of the defenders needs to be on their game, and they need to know that, hey, if I don't have a Joey Bocci to cover for me if I make a mistake, I have to play my part. It's the same thing in the pros, and it's the same thing with LeBron. LeBron's the ultimate eraser. When he's not in the game, everyone else has to play their part, and everyone has to contribute collectively, not just assume that Kyrie and Love are just going to fix everything.
So, I mean, with the Cavaliers and where they're at right now, what players or what do you think they should do here in the offseason? I mean, is there a player that you think they should target? I think they need, if you think about the Warriors, they need a tall, athletic, defensive player to cover Kevin Durant so that, maybe
they
LeBron.
have one. His name is Derek Williams, and he didn't play at all in the finals.
That's a good point.
Yeah, I even said I don't know why they didn't give him a chance to get out there, but it could be a little bit different. Derek Williams, I don't know if he has the experience in the playoffs. I mean,
how are you going to get experience if you don't
play? But to throw him in the finals.
Patrick McCall played. Who the hell? Who was that
terrible.
guy? Yeah, and he still scored on the Cavs for Golden State.
A lot of people scored on the Cavs on Golden State.
Well,
we gave up 135 points.
Correct, but that didn't stop Steve Kerr and or Mike Brown or whoever decided to tag team and be the head coach that day from putting him in. There's no reason not to play.
Steve Kerr's on
Patrick
another
McCall
level
is a rookie.
Than Ty Lue.
He is a rookie. Derek Williams has been in the league for at least 4 to 5 years. There's no reason to have to be afraid of him coming in and playing 5 minutes.
And I mean,
Dante Jones played in the finals last year. Dante Jones played meaningful minutes. Meaningful minutes.
Back to the player. If the Cavs are all about signing 35-year-old and older guys or acquiring them, I would really look hard at a guy like Tony Allen, defensive guy, can provide you a little scoring off the bench, but a defensive guy. Another thing, I really think that Carmelo Anthony will end up on the Cavs.
I wouldn't hate that either.
Especially if you don't have to give up anything for it.
Exactly.
Right.
I think you're right. I think eventually he's going to get a buyout from New York.
Something's going to happen where he's going to end up coming to the Cavs because the Cavs at some point are going to be desperate to make a splash move. That's just my opinion.
What if Griff is there? What if Griff gets hired as the new president and general
then,
manager of the New York Knicks. Does he still come?
But listen, he still might get bought out as part of the analytics and you know, and in New York, they got to start with a clean slate here.
Yeah.
So if Griff does go there, you know, maybe he's just like, okay, well, let's just start fresh. Let's start collecting assets, so we could build around Kristaps Porzingis. Right now, they don't have anything. You know, they're just treading water. So
the Cavs need to do something. You know, obviously, you know, getting a backup point guard. They let Darren Williams go. He had a terrible playoff. You know, he was out of control and turned the ball over every turn. But you never know what can happen in the offseason.
No, not at all. Not at all. I mean, it's going to take some very creative thinking on the Cavs front, just because of the lack of assets and lack of salary cap space. You know, so for the moment, you know, they have a good team. They have a team that went to the finals 3 straight years. Is there really a reason to completely blow it up? Absolutely not. It's just a matter of these guys coming together, as you said, Josh, and basically saying, you know what, we're just as good as these guys. You know, yeah, they got us last year. They had to add the second best player in the world to do it. Well, we have to rise up and come together and figure out a way to do it, because we have the best player in the league on our team.
Yeah, the guys just have to want it and play, and that's it.
Yep, indeed. Well, I think we're gonna. You know, it's been a great show. We've had we had Berea Mid-Park head football coach John Hunick on the air earlier today, talking a little bit about his offseason, talking a little bit about the upcoming season. Their first game is August 25th against the Stronsville Mustangs.
Big game.
It is a huge game. It's a rekindling the old rivalry between actually 3 teams, Berea, Mid-Park, and Stronsville. So you got Berea, Mid-Park, and Stronsville week 1. I know we'll be heading out to Berea Mid-Park for one of their games early in the season.
Yeah.
You know, and really, any one of Berea Mid-Park's games is a big game. So you can't go wrong with picking one of those games as our SOT.
Our schedule's not
spotlight game of the week.
Our schedule's not set in stone, but more than likely, I think early on we're looking at week 3, Berea Mid-Park at Westlake.
There we go. You heard it here
we'll
first.
See.
A little bit of tease for the high school football season.
Possibly.
Well, we'll send out the schedule on our website, sportsontappodcast.com.
Yeah.
We'll have, these podcasts. We'll have pictures. There'll be all kinds of different stuff on our website, so check it out. For Josh Jeffy, Ed Dick, I'm Rob Troutman. We're live from Z's Cream and Beans, signing off. I think it's time to get some ice cream, guys.
No doubt.
Have a great weekend, everyone. We'll see you, as Ed Dick says, on the flip side.
It's on the other side.
I couldn't say the same thing. See ya.
As Ed Dick says that.
He kind of says it.